Hi everyone, John Davenport here from Photography.com with another Let's Edit video. So if you noticed I've been away for a little while. I've been focusing on other projects, but those have kind of wrapped themselves up or are towards the end of wrapping themselves up. So I thought I'd start recording some more videos and get back behind the camera here. So one thing I wanted to mention is going forward, I've gotten rid of the little face overlay, my talking head, so to speak. If you did like that and you would like it to come back in future videos, leave a comment below and let me know. Otherwise, you'll just hear my voice talking from nowhere. Other than that, going forward here, the other thing that I'd like to do is work more towards explaining how these sliders affect your photo rather than just doing the edits and kind of showing you what I do. So the idea here is that for this particular photograph, I'm going to kind of walk us through the basic panel here. I'm not going to do much else than just kind of walk through and show you how each of the sliders kind of affects each other. And as you make one move, you may end up finding that you'll want to make a different move with an alternate slider to kind of compensate for that. So here, one of the things that I like to start with recently, it's been kind of a new trend in my editing process, is actually working with the highlights, the shadows, whites, and blacks. And I don't like to touch the exposure or the contrast right away. I feel like if you can get your exposure right or close enough to correct in camera, then all you really need to change are these other four sliders here. And we're going to do that today. So one thing I'm going to do is actually reduce the highlights quite a bit here, probably about 45 or so. And what that's going to do is soften up the water a little bit more. You can see in the before image, the water's really white and really powerful. So I've kind of softened that up a little bit. But to bring the whiteness back into it, what I'm going to do is actually increase the white level of that by about 40 or so. So now you can see here, we went from, it's a very subtle change, but what you can see is that there's a little bit more detail in the highlights of the photograph. So here's our before image, and here's our after image. It might be hard to see unless you're looking at this at the highest resolution on YouTube, but what ends up happening is as you reduce that highlight slider, you actually are applying some edge detail as well as reducing the highlights. So you end up getting a little more detail into your photograph. So now I'm going to do something very similar to the shadow regions of this photograph by increasing the shadows. I'm going to go all the way to 100 here, and then I'm going to reduce the black level just a little bit. So again, what that does is as I increase that shadow slider, I'm not only raising the light level of a shadow region, but I'm also applying some edge detail and some effects that will basically add more contrast to those regions of the photograph. And then because the shadow slider ends up, as you get up towards that 100 or even like over 60 or so, you start to get that graying effect of the shadow regions, or it's kind of a dulling effect. To bring that back in, you reduce the black slider, and that adds a little more contrast to those areas. So you can see so far this is where we've started and this is where we've come. It's a subtle change, but it definitely pops the photo a little more. So that's a good start. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with my crop tool, and I'm going to crop in so that this branch that's fallen across the front of the waterfall here, it's going to start right at this right hand corner. As one of the best places to put your leading lines or any kind of lines is in the corner of your photo. I feel like it's more natural if you put them there. And then I'm going to crop in on the left hand side just a little bit here. Something like this maybe, or maybe we'll go over a little more. Something like this, something like that, that works. So then we have our river coming down here, and we're in a good shape. So now it's a good start. but there's a lot more that we can do because we've only so far affected these 4 sliders. So now I'm going to add a little bit of overall exposure. Not a lot, just a little bit to brighten the whole image up, just a touch. And I'm going to add a little more contrast. Just a little bit again. And then I'm going to come down here to my clarity slider, which is one fun slider, especially when you have rocks and all these kind of detailed elements. So I'm going to add a little bit of clarity, and you can see that's going to start to really harden up these edges. And I'm going to actually add a little saturation to this as well. I like the colors in the water. You get to see the rock bed below the waterfall. And we have some nice greens up here and some nice colors on the rocks. So I'm going to add that little bit of saturation and maybe just a touch of vibrance as well. So that's a really good start. And again, here's our before image. Here's our after. So we've come a long way. Now, finally, I think the one final thing that this photo needs, as far as the basic tab goes, is just a little warming effect. To me, I think it needs just a little bit here, maybe something like 43K, 44K, something like that, just to give it that, warmness to that photo. I prefer my photos on the warm side. Some people might prefer it on the cooler side. That's kind of one of those things that you can leave up to your own artistic interpretation. So there's that, and now finally I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come down to my lens corrections tab, and I'm just going to enable my manual or the automatic lens correction for this lens. And the wide angle lens does kind of distort things at times, so this kind of reins it back in a little. That's really quick. And then finally I'm going to apply just a little bit more detail. I'm going to raise up these 3 sliders here, and then I'm going to raise the masking slider up a lot. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want to sharpen the nice silky smooth water that we have going down here. So as you see, as I raise that masking slider up, and I'm holding down my option key here to get this overlay, the waterfall in the background here is black. And that basically means that the sharpening is not being applied to any region that is black. So that water will stay very soft, which is what I want. So that's a really good, at least start to an edit. There's a lot more that can be done. I believe when I published this photo, I went into Photoshop and I removed this branch here because I felt that it detracted from the photo, and I also removed this little branch as well, and I think that's it. So as far as Lightroom goes, this is about as far as I took it. I hope you learned something today. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.